Hello, welcome to Chess Prime. As part of this video, we are going to see how to create a thread using a runnable interface. So this is one of the way to create a thread using runnable interface. So we can create a thread using runnable interface with different ways, around 5 different ways we are going to see it. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple class using core Java called as runnable a demo. So this is my class name and I need a main method, so let's select that one and click on sub. Now we can see the main class got created with the name as runnable demo. Like I said, right, so we can able to create the thread using runnable interface. There are 5 different ways. The first one we are going to see is with a class name. Okay, so this is the first approach what we are going to use, a dedicated class to implement a runnable interface. So first I created a class, and for that next I had to implement runnable interface. So this is the simple approach. Now come back to the implementation part of the runnable interface. Or so runnable is interface, and inside that if you go and see it over here, it's having only one method, and this is called as interactive functional interface, whereas it's having only one method and you don't have any other things. Okay, this is called as a functional interface. Now whenever you implement an interface, so we have to implement, or we have to provide an implementation for the marker interface method. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add a simple sysout just to make understand which thread is executing. Okay, so now it's clear. Now we just created a class and it's got implemented, and we have overridden the marker interface method. And now how to create the thread by using my class. It's a main interface. The first step is you have to create an object for this one. Let me create it. So this is the first step. The second step is we have to use a thread class. The 3 1 equal to new thread, and then we have to pass the your thread object over here, and then you can able to call your thread by using t1 dot start. So this is a simple way you can able to implement the runnable interface and override the run method and create the object and pass that object to thread class as an argument in the constructor. Then you can start it. Let me start the thread by running the program. So we can see over here it's generating the output called my thread run method. So that means your thread is running, though we are not calling run method directly, we are calling start method, and inside the start method it will call your thread corresponding run method. So this is one of the way we can able to create a thread using the runnable interface. So the next approach we are going to see a simple anonymous class. A simple way we are going to create another approach is called anonymous class. So in this case we are not creating a dedicated class, but we are using anonymous class approach, and then we are going to create it. So this is a very simple approach how to create it. So for this, first you can create an object. So new thread. So first you can create a thread object, and then inside that we have to pass the runnable interface object. So how we are going to do that one? So what I'm going to do that one, to pass the runnable interface, I'm going to create an object for the runnable interface. So ideally, if you see here, it's a runnable is an interface. We cannot create the object directly, but we are using anonymous class, and then we are going to override the run method directly. So this is the way we are going to use it, anonymous class implementation, and pass the object to the thread class. Again, to just to differentiate which run method it is executing, I am going to add a simple statement to see the difference. So what is this method? This is anonymous class, so I'm going to add anonymous thread class run method, so that way we can able to differentiate which one is executing. So you can format this one so that we can able to read it very clearly. Now to call your thread you have to use the thread object, and you can call the run method. Okay, so this is one of the way. So I'm just going to comment it out the previous approach so that we can able to see only one sys out in the console. So create an object and pass the runnable object over here by implementing the runnable interface directly, and you can override the run method. This is one of the approach. Now I'm going to run my thread by running the main class, and we can see anonymous thread class run method. So this is another and very simple approach without creating any dedicated class. So we have another approach called Lambda expressions, but to execute the Lambda expressions you should have JDK 8 minimum. So you should have JDK 8 and plus. So this is the minimum or base requirement is required to execute the Lambda expressions, and this is one of the easiest approach. And as part of the as part of the latest JDK we can use this approach, and this very simple approach. So let's get started, and before starting I'm going to comment it out the previous approach. So now, so third approach is Lambda expression. A Lambda expression, to use this one you should have at least JDK 8 and plus, and you can able to implement this approach. And this is a simple approach and very crispy approach. So how to do that one? Same as usual, you can create a thread object. Let me clear it out. So this is a thread object, you have to create it. So for thread object we have to pass the runnable interface implementation as an object, but how we are going to pass it over here? Here we are going to pass the implementation directly, which is having a method implementation. So this is the way we are going to do it. What we are trying to here we will try to understand. So this is the thread object I'm creating, and inside that I'm trying to pass a simple method implementation which don't have any argument, and the implementation is very simple. I'm just making one line of the sysout to understand it. So I'm going to give as a lambda expression run method. So this is the way I can able to differentiate which method is running. So now I am going to format this class to make it better readable way. So thread class object, inside that I am going to pass a method implementation which don't have any argument. So now your thread is ready. How to execute this one? You can call the start method, and you can able to see the output. And this is one of the very simple approach you can able to create the thread class. Okay, so this is one of the simple approach. So but still we have some more approaches to create a thread, so I'm going to demonstrate. So the fourth one is like a method reference approach. So method reference approach, so let me add this one. Okay, method reference approach, what we are going to do over here? So to implement a thread class using method reference, we have to create a simple method called public static void test. So this is my method which I am going to implement. Simple statement called, let me copy this one so that I can use it. test method run response. So this is my implementation. So what I'm trying to do here, I just implemented a simple method which don't have any argument as an input, and which is a static method of void return type. So void return type. So now method is ready. So how we are going to use this method? So to use this method, first step what we have to do, you have to create a runnable reference, and then where your method is staying in which class, so you have to take your class as a reference, and then you can pass it. So what's your method name over here? So then you have to pass the method reference. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to refer a class method by using the class name colon these things symbols. So that means we are referring a method and we are passing that implementation to the runnable interface object. So this is the way we are going to make ready of runnable interface. The next step is very easy. The standard approach, what we are trying to do, we are trying to create a thread class. Okay, so the standard thread class, what we are trying to do over here, I'm going to pass the 4, and you can pass the your runnable object reference. And finally how we are going to call it, you can call the thread object reference dot class, then you can able to execute your runnable interface implementation. So I'm just trying to comment it out the previous approach so that we can avoid the multiple sysouts. So now your thread is ready. Let me reiterate it. So you have to create a simple method. It's a static and void type. It could be any name, and then you can refer your method name using your class colon method name, pass it to runnable, and pass the runnable object to the thread class, then you can call it. So this is another approach using the method reference, and ignore this one, execute. So you can able to see the output test method run response. So this is one of the approach. So the final and last approach what we are going to see for thread creation is how to create multiple threads using same runnable interface object. So this is one of the main advantage compared to the thread class. So here we are going to see if you want to create more than one thread using single thread reference, how we are going to do that one. So that's the main use case. So what I'm going to do here, so we have already created a simple class like we seen in the first response, and we have what we have done, we have created the object. I'm just trying to copy the code. So before that, multi-thread create. So first what I'm trying to do, I'm trying just copying the existing code, my thread equal to new thread, and I'm creating a thread object, I'm passing the reference. So this is one thread, right? Say for instance I want to create another thread. How can I do it? First let me treat this one as a 5, and I want to create another thread called 6. I want to start it. So that now if you see here, I created one thread object which having the implementation of the runnable interface, and I created two thread reference and I'm passing it. So here this way I can able to create multiple threads using single thread implementation reference called runnable interface, and I can use it. So let me comment it out the previous approach, and we are going to run it. So now it's ready, it's very simple. So we are trying to create a multiple threads using one implementation response. Let me run it. You can see over here we are going to see two outs, so that means two threads are executing. So this is one of the way we can able to create multiple threads using runnable interface, a single object reference. We are trying to refer multiple threads and we can able to call it. So these are the different ways to create a runnable interface thread by implementing the run method, and this is one of the easiest way, and mostly commonly we are using this is the approach because runnable interface is a marker interface which is having single method, abstract method, so that we can implement it, then we can able to execute our threads. I think that's all about this video. If you like the video, you can subscribe to the channel for more subsequent updates. Thank you.